Who are the dumbest criminals around? Let's find out. Starting with number 5, Nosebeers For All. Veronica Zinger was busted after selling small bags of nose beers to partygoers who wanted to have some extra stimulating conversations. Veronica made a living out of selling these bags, even though she has over 90,000 followers on Instagram and has a modeling gig going on the side. Apparently, income from those gigs wasn't enough to fuel her lavish Instagram-ready lifestyle, and she needed something extra, or something spicier, to supplement her income. And that something was what she was eventually busted for. Veronica used to work as a casino waitress, but her real job was really a sales associate for members of the illegal substances underworld. When she was eventually caught, the police found her with 4 bags of the finest nose beers. She was also caught with $2,150 in cash and other illegal substances in her handbag. The funny thing about the entire gig is that court papers reported that Veronica didn't even attempt to deny selling those bags. The police caught up with her after her customer coughed up 2 bags of the substance, and she basically started singing like a canary. She was promptly charged to court and pleaded guilty to 2 counts of supplying a prohibited item, possessing a prohibited item, and dealing with the proceeds of a crime. But instead of spending the free time she has with friends and family, Veronica has decided to do something else. Less than 24 hours after pleading guilty, Veronica was back on Instagram, and she had very important news. She shared pictures from her trip to a cosmetic clinic where she got cheek injections and a lip blush tattoo. Afterwards, she shared pictures of her modeling sporting gym clothing and asked her followers to take advantage of her discount code. Well, we guess the grind never stops for Veronica. Perhaps she may continue the grind in prison when her sentencing is finally handed down. Or maybe she'll learn from this episode and stay off the illegal substance merchant game. Why she feels the need to sling the nose beers is beyond us, though. She seems like she's doing pretty okay on IG. Why mess that up for a little extra cash? Number 4, Nosebeer Barbie. Eduarda Marquez, or as we like to call her, Nosebeer Barbie, was busted by the police after doing something we all do occasionally, which is post her stash of illegal substances. I mean, it happens, right? You're having a great time and then you mistakenly bring out your stash of illegal substances, accidentally take a picture of it, and accidentally post it on Instagram of all places. Before building a name for herself as Nosebeer Barbie, Eduarda was known for wowing the world with her bike tricks. Since she's good looking and posts a lot of risque pictures, Eduarda has a lot of fans on Instagram. Unfortunately, this horde of fans may have been what egged Eduarda on to accidentally post pictures of her stash on her Instagram story. A police raid of her apartment afterwards found 13 bags of nose beers, some of that regular green sticky icky, and a bag of cash. A 16-year-old who's believed to be a part of the Nosebeer Barbie operation was also arrested at the scene. Nosebeer Barbie is still really young, so you could say she has enough time to turn her life around. Let's see if she takes this chance to do that. Number 3, same old tricks. Lady of the night, Taquanna Lawson, got busted for stealing the vehicle of a corrections officer. And guess what? This isn't her first time. According to some sources, it might not even be her second time. It could very well be her third time. Taquanna was just 20 at that time, but she was already quite the accomplished criminal. A few months before she got caught swiping the corrections officer's car, she had been caught stealing a Jeep Wrangler from a precinct cop. But that crime was committed under interesting circumstances. Apparently, the cop in question, Ali Shepard, wanted to have some adult time with Taquanna and another woman. Taquanna had agreed to the arrangement, and they were all in the Wrangler heading to an undisclosed location. Then Shepard got out of the car to withdraw money at an ATM. However, he didn't put the ignition off and left the car idling. He didn't have anything to worry about. However, Taquanna immediately got behind the wheel and drove the car away. By the time she was caught, Shepard's police-issued Smith & Wesson was nowhere to be found, and Taquanna denied ever seeing the weapon to begin with. Police charged her, and at the time, she was also reportedly charged with grand larceny charges for stealing vehicles in another county. So Taquanna somehow got out of that jam and was back on the road doing the same thing. This time, she tried the same trick on the corrections officer and made away with all his stuff. The officer, Ezra Lewis, gave Taquanna a lift and then stopped at a deli to get cash. And just like the last time, she jumped behind the wheel and then drove away. She then drove the car to meet her cousin, and they both raided the the vehicle of all the valuables it might have. But instead of abandoning the vehicle, Taquanna continued to use it until the police caught her with the car, which is what all the smartest thieves do. Who doesn't know that you need to stick with the vehicle of a stolen cop after stealing it? It's not like they can track it or anything. Number 2, Uplifted. Alexander Funk tried to steal a car, but was ultimately held hostage 20 feet in the air by a skilled forklift operator. This may sound like a bizarre scene, but that's precisely what happened. Funk's plan was simple. He would get into the junkyard, break into a car, and then drive it away like a jolly good fellow. Unfortunately, things don't always work out so perfectly for dumb criminals. Immediately, he broke into the vehicle, the forklift operator was radioed by his colleagues, and he raced over to the scene. He got into his forklift and maneuvered it to where Funk was still trying to steal a car. The car in question was then lifted by the forklift and the police were called. It's weird that he didn't hear the forklift coming though, right? Do you work around forklifts? Are we crazy? Like, he should have heard that, right? Anyway, according to the junkyard operators, this wasn't the first time that Funk tried to steal a car. In fact, this was the 3rd time he attempted it, and every other time he ran away before the police arrived. And sadly, Funk isn't the only person who tries to steal vehicles from junkyards. Because the forklift lifted the vehicle 20 feet in the air, Funk couldn't get down from the car before the police arrived. And when they did, he was immediately arrested. Maybe next time Funk won't try to steal a vehicle in such a dumb way. If you're enjoying this video, be sure to stay right here for our past release to find out what happens when entitled rich kids go unchecked. Number 1, no excuses. Police Sergeant John Lee arrested his daughter after she destroyed traffic lights while drunk driving. The young suspect that Lee arrested was driving a white car, and one witness said they saw that vehicle hit a traffic light. Since the police weren't around to actually see the crime being committed, the driver of the white car sort of almost got away with it. Almost. Police officers soon caught up with her and started interrogating her about the broken traffic light. But instead of admitting that she had hit the light, our suspect simply said she didn't hit anything. When the police asked her why her bumper looked like it had just been in an accident, she said that the accident had happened a long time ago. But the police officers weren't convinced and brought a broken piece of the bumper from the scene of the accident and matched it with what was remaining of her bumper. That's when she admitted that she had been drunk driving and also texting while driving. This meant she had committed 3 separate crimes. First, she was drunk driving. Second, she was texting while driving. And third, she had hit a traffic light. And then our dear suspect played what she thought was her trump card. She told the officers to call her dad. She probably thought that because her father was a police officer, he would get her off the hook. He did not. When John Lee arrived at the scene, the police officers told him not to interfere in their investigation, but John interfered all right. He made sure to scold his daughter and then told her to sit in the police car. She was driven to the police station where her blood alcohol level was tested, and it was revealed that she had a BAC level that was double the legal limit. She was promptly arrested and put in jail to await charges. John Lee's daughter probably thought her dad would get her out of drunk driving, but she was wrong. She was eventually arrested and faced the consequences of her actions. It's already stupid to drink and drive. She's lucky no one was hurt. And even more stupider to do it when your dad is a no-nonsense type cop. Maybe if he was a some-nonsense type cop. And why she'd admit to the texting when she didn't have to is beyond us. Seriously, don't drink and drive. And don't text and drive. When you're driving, just drive. Who are some of the most spoiled kids out there? Let's get right into it and start with number 5, punch drunk? Alexandra Jackson, daughter to country superstar Alan Jackson, faced charges of assault, underage drinking, and resisting arrest following a 2013 traffic stop. Her father might have been considered one of the best singer-songwriters in country music, but that didn't give her a free pass when she disrespected Nashville Metro police officers. She was riding in the passenger seat of a Range Rover that a Nashville police officer caught driving over the speed limit. While speaking to the driver, the officer could tell that Jackson was intoxicated and getting aggressive. Jackson began to make demands as she stormed out of the car. The officer's attempts to get her back in the vehicle only further enraged her. When he threatened her with the possibility of being arrested, she struck him in the chest. The officer had to call for backup while trying to arrest her as she continued to fight. Eventually, she complied with the arrest and was taken into police custody. While being booked, she told the officers that she could get her dad to do whatever it would take to get her out of trouble, going as far as to bribe them. They warned her against bribing or attempting to bribe an officer. During her court hearing, Jackson avoided jail time and reached a plea deal. She had to take anger management and alcohol safety courses and participate in community service. Number 4. Like father, like son. T.I. and Tiny Harris's son, King Harris, was arrested in August 2022 for not wearing his seatbelt. Someone posted his mugshot online, and after it went viral, Harris took to Instagram to tell his followers what happened, filming a series of videos to tell his side of the story. Some accused him of trying to act gangster, despite leading a privileged lifestyle after he posted a selfie where he was pointing his middle finger at the camera. King filmed his response while he was enjoying a bubble bath because even real thugs like Mr. Bubble. In the video, he addressed critics, claiming he didn't try to get the police to pull him over, and acknowledging that he had a good life. King was also upset that nobody acknowledged that he dropped new music, likely because nobody knew or cared. His stage name was Kid Saiyan, and he dropped a new track called New King of the South, a nod at his dad's own self-proclamation back in the day. Claiming that people were only focusing on the arrest rather than his new music video, he lashed out at his fans for not focusing on what truly mattered to him. A video clip surfaced online where viewers could hear a female voice explaining Harris's charges to him. The officer arrested him for not wearing his seatbelt, although he claimed that officers also asked him to submit blood. According to Harris, they wanted to check his mouth and tongue to see if he smoked, but he wouldn't let them. T.I. spoke out against his son, saying that he was a good kid but was focusing on the wrong stuff. He admitted that neither he nor his wife Tiny could get through to their kid and that they would put their faith in God regarding handling the situation. In their defense, just do nothing and pray about it is no doubt top advice in countless parenting books because, of course, it always works. The arrest wasn't the first time people raised concerns about Harris's behavior. In May 2022, he visited a Waffle House restaurant and ordered takeout. King took to Instagram Live to record himself sitting in the backseat of a car where he checked his order. His food came with pickles, which he didn't want, so he stormed back into the establishment because God helped him if he finds pickles. King approached the Waffle House workers and cussed them out. An employee told him to stop cursing inside the restaurant, which only made King angrier. That was a mistake. King told them he could do whatever he wanted. Then, King taunted the workers and, in a truly baller move, bragged that he had their entire yearly wage in his pocket. If flaunting inherited wealth doesn't impress them, what will? Then, he took out a stack of cash and showed them his dad's money, proving his impressive claim and obviously commanding the respect Waffle House should be giving him. King then threatened to pistol whip an employee for disrespecting him. He must not have been suitably impressed. The cook offered to meet him outside, but King bravely sped off, feeling he taught Waffle House a lesson about respect. In 2020, an 8-second video clip also showed King fighting another boy in a school bathroom. They were each throwing and ducking punches until it escalated. King threw his opponent against the wall and elbowed him to the ribs. Sounds like T.I. and Tiny needed to start putting their faith in God to help King sooner. Seriously, who else is supposed to raise, discipline, and teach their child? Them? Absurd! It's obviously God's job. Number 3. Hot Ferrari. In 2015, a rich kid set his Ferrari on fire because he wanted a newer Ferrari. The vehicle was worth $250,000, but he wanted his Swiss millionaire father to buy him a different model. We've all been there, right? Well, it's relatable to us anyway. The kid was justifiably upset that his Ferrari was no longer the best and most up-to-date model, but didn't want to tell his father how desperately he needed a newer Ferrari. The Ferrari wasn't even this poor kid's only car, but the collection looks bad without the newest Ferrari. In fact, he had 14 other cars, including a Lamborghini. But like, how boring, right? A Lamborghini? Like he's supposed to be happy with that? His father also barely paid him a decent $10,000 a month allowance and gave him a stupid $30 million property portfolio. These pittances were nothing next to the new Ferrari he needed. Life is hard sometimes, as he's quickly learning. After talking to a car sales associate about his dilemma, the associate jokingly advised that he commit insurance fraud to get money to get the correct Ferrari. The kid decided that it was actually a really good idea and organized to have it set on fire. Not just stolen or anything. This wasn't the newest Ferrari and needed to be removed from the planet immediately. He found 3 accomplices and paid them $15,000 to drive the car across the Swiss border into Germany, where they would set it alight. While they were doing his dirty work, he went for a massage to have an alibi in his dumb old Lamborghini. Everyone at the massage parlor was probably laughing at him. Unfortunately, the whole act was caught on security cameras. While they successfully destroyed the car, he couldn't claim the insurance money as he had hoped and was left without a replacement for the vehicle, aside from the 13 other cars he owned and the stupid, dumb Lamborghini. He received 22 months probation for his attempted fraud, and he was forced to pay a $44,000 fine, which is 4.5 months of his allowance. So unfair! We're sure a real lesson was learned that day about appreciating what you have and not setting fires to exotic sports cars. This kid will likely grow up to be a wonderful member of society. Number 2. Patricide over allowance. Tommy Gilbert Jr. killed his father after the elder Gilbert threatened to cut off his son's allowance. On January 4, 2015, Gilbert visited his parents' apartment on Manhattan's East Side, where he wanted to speak with his father. After asking his mother to go to the store and get him a sandwich and a soda, he shot his father, Tom Gilbert Sr., in the head, killing him instantly. Before Tommy left the room, he placed the .40 caliber Glock pistol in his father's hand and angled his fingers around so it looked like he was clutching it, leaving his mom to discover the chilling scene. Gilbert had delusions that started when he was a child. Some people and places were what he considered contaminated, such as New York's JFK Airport. He probably wasn't wrong about that, though. Once Tommy was on his way to Princeton with his father when they pulled over for gas near JFK. Gilbert claimed the place contaminated his clothing and was one of the most traumatic things he had ever experienced. Let us say that again. Stopping at a gas station near JFK Airport is the most traumatic thing Thomas Gilbert Jr. has ever experienced. Despite never being formally charged, some people suspected that he tried to kill a former roommate. Gilbert was convinced that Peter Smith was out to get him, despite there being absolutely no reason to think that. In October of 2013, Gilbert and Smith had attended the premiere of And After All, a short film in which Gilbert appeared as an extra, and had been co-produced by a mutual friend. After the premiere, Smith emerged onto the street when Gilbert stepped out of nowhere and jumped him. Gilbert repeatedly slammed Smith's head against the pavement. Gilbert had broken his nose and given him a concussion. When confronted by mutual friends, Gilbert went completely off the deep end, going on a rage-filled diatribe that was incomprehensible. Smith fled and was granted an order of protection. It didn't end there, with Gilbert and his friends regularly calling the SPCA to have Smith investigated for animal abuse. Of course, nothing was ever found because Peter Smith wasn't abusing his dog. A year later, Smith's Hamptons house burned to the ground after someone threw a Molotov cocktail into the residence. Usually, Smith would have been home alone, but thankfully, he had a friend over. Gilbert refused to get a proper job and was often described as a man-child. He was spoiled and would spend his time taking frequent surfing trips overseas and taking certain illegal substances. Tom Gilbert Sr. was a hedge fund manager and gave his son all the cash he needed, because nothing creates wonderful humans like inherited wealth. Tom supplied Tommy with a weekly allowance, financed his Jeep, paid for expensive club memberships, and helped out with any other costs his son had. Gilbert's name was even on his father's firm's payroll, but nobody that worked there knew what he did. Even though he had his allowance, Gilbert often approached his mother and asked her for more money. In 2012, when Tommy was 28, his parents gave him $74,000 and increased his allowance to $10,000 a month. When his father began to cut his allowance, Gilbert found other ways to make money, like buying a credit card skimmer. Then he contacted a real estate agent and asked that she sell his parents' Hampton home. It was soon apparent that he wouldn't get the money he needed until his father was dead. Gilbert's mother told the police that her son had murdered his father. Following his arrest, Gilbert went to Rikers Island to await trial. His lawyer at the time repeatedly argued that his client wasn't mentally fit to take the stand. While in jail, Gilbert's mental health steadily declined. He stopped taking his medication and tried to start fights with other inmates. Tommy asked a friend to host a fundraiser to help him with his legal defense, but his friend refused, as nobody would want to help get a spoiled kid who went after his own dad get out of jail. Tommy argued with his lawyer about taking an insanity defense and eventually wrote to the Manhattan District Attorney to ask for a public defender because he wanted to fire his attorney. Then, Tommy claimed to be suffering from radiation poisoning after swallowing a battery battery, but during his x-ray, it was clear he was holding the battery over his stomach. The jury had to decide whether Gilbert was mentally competent at the time he went after his father. He wasn't in court for most of the proceedings, as he kept either asking to leave the room. When he was there, he was constantly interrupting the proceedings. Eventually, the jury deemed he was sane the day he killed his father on the grounds that he had his mother leave to get him lunch so she wouldn't be home when he pulled the trigger. To the jury, a crazy person wouldn't have had a plan. John Glatt is the author of Golden Boy, A Murder Among Manhattan Elite, a book detailing Tommy Gilbert Jr.'s story, disagreed with the jury's outcome. Glatt believed that Gilbert was incompetent to stand trial, having been uncooperative and sabotaging his own defense. During the trial, Tommy wouldn't acknowledge his lawyer and tried to get the jury to declare it a mistrial. He had to be dragged out of court after addressing them directly. Today, Gilbert is serving 30 years to life and is serving his sentence in the Clinton Correctional Facility in Dannemora, New York. His earliest potential release date isn't until April 2044. Number 1. Baby daddy troubles. Ayanna Mayweather, daughter of boxer Floyd Mayweather, was charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon after being involved in a 2020 stabbing. Floyd Mayweather is often considered the greatest boxer of his era and one of the best in the sport's history. His net worth is $450 million, and 21 years into his career, his fights still generate millions of dollars of revenue. However, Ayanna Mayweather couldn't use her father's famous name to get out of trouble when a fight over her fiance, NBA YoungBoy, escalated. Ayanna visited her fiance's house where she confronted LaPatra Lashai Jacobs, who was at the NBA YoungBoy estate late at night. They were probably just talking and hanging out though. It was 1:30 a.m. when she arrived at NBA YoungBoy's Houston home and found Jacobs inside. She told Jacobs that she was NBA YoungBoy's fiance and insisted that Jacobs needed to leave. Jacobs, apparently also seeing Mr. YoungBoy as a real catch, refused to leave. So Mayweather charged her with 2 knives and stabbed her twice. You would assume 1 stab per knife, but the details are fuzzy. One of those knives could still be considered new. An ambulance took Jacobs to the hospital where she underwent surgery for multiple lacerations on her arm. When police arrived, Mayweather told them it was the first time she'd met Jacobs. She claimed that Jacobs provoked her when she yanked at her hair. Authorities arrested Ayanna and took her to Houston's Harris County Jail, where she was later released on bond. 2 years following the altercation, Mayweather pleaded guilty to aggravated assault with a deadly weapon for stabbing Jacobs. She took a plea bargain where she waived her right to appeal a judge's decision. Mayweather agreed to the prosecutor's recommended punishment, which involved 6 years of probation, 40 hours of community service, and that she not harass, threaten, or have abusive contact with Jacobs. Pending her good behavior, she will be eligible to have the deferred adjudication end after 2 years. Floyd probably should have read The Cat in the Hat to his daughter while she was still young so she could learn about consequences and responsibility from a young age. Oh, wait. Click to watch one of these next videos. Let us know in the comment section what you'd rather have. Free Chipotle for life or free Arby's for life.